Welcome to Feed Your Lion. I'm Dr. Jodelle Yount, and I'm here to aid you in the mastery of total health, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, and financial. So prepare to have your wellness tank filled up with this podcast. I recently read, it's called The Biblio Diet. I wrote it up here, so there's a lot more to dive into. I'm just kind of scratching the surface with a little bit of this, but if you guys are interested in any further study, this is a good place to start, okay? And there's a podcast I really like. It's called The Ultimate Human, and I listened to one of the authors talk on that too, and that's what got me down this little rabbit hole. But first off, I think a lot of times we view the Bible. Yeah, sorry, Lainey, go ahead. I think a lot of times we view the Bible as just a spiritual guidebook, which it is. But it's so much more than that. I put the title as The Bible is the best self-help book, because it is. And I don't know if anybody else in this room is a self-help book junkie. I love nonfiction reading. I love to dive into financial books, to mindset books. I love all of that stuff. But the Bible talks more than just spiritual. It addresses finances. I mean, there's a ton of stuff out there on that, and that could be a whole other lecture and series that you do. It addresses mindset and gratitude, right? Which is a big part of a good mindset. It addresses emotional and your relationships, right? How many examples of different relationships and of all kinds do we see in the Bible and guides to follow? And then finally, it does talk about physical health and a lot of nutrition. And I'm focusing on this one tonight because, I do a lot of this anyway, so I have a little bit better background to present this than other people. But I'm going to focus, bless you, Luna. I'm going to focus on the nutrition today, and we're going to kind of dive in that. But there's so many other rabbit holes we could go. I mean, this could be literally a whole series. And so I don't want to take away, obviously, we go to the Bible for our spiritual, that's our main book, right? But it addresses all these things. And I wrote down a few verses because in every single gospel, this mind-body-spirit connection is talked about, okay? We got in Mark 12:30, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is on your worksheet, okay? And with all thy strength. This is the first commandment, okay? That is the first and greatest commandment, and the second is what? What comes after love your God with all your heart? Love your neighbor. Thank you, Pastor Tim. So those are the first and greatest. In Luke chapter 10, verse 27, and he answered, this is Jesus, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy strength, and with all thy mind, and thy neighbor as thyself. Okay? Same thing. We continue that in Matthew 22:37. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God. It's in all the Gospels. Jesus said this, right? He's not just talking about the Spirit. He's talking about our whole person. And we don't live just spirit alone. We are in a physical body. We have a mind and emotions, thoughts, emotions. We have a will that we put into action. We were given all these things. They're not separate entities. And I think sometimes we look at church and our devotions and our Bible like, this is my spirit side. It's all together. These things, like, if you're empowering one, it does affect the others. And I think sometimes we miss that. Okay? So, I'm going to go in deep today about, not in deep, scratching surface, about food specific. We're going to look at foods that the Bible talks about and how they are different today or how it still applies. Okay? And this is really fun for me because, like I said, I've never heard this even talked about, and it's like all over the Bible. So, I kind of had a lot of fun with this. Now, you've got I don't know if I have this, but I want you to write this on the back of your sheet. This is things that are not in the Bible and things you should really stay away from if you're trying to be a healthier you. Ultra-processed foods. You didn't see that in biblical time, okay? Seed oils and how we do that. All kinds of bad cancer, hurt, all kinds of stuff. The artificial sweeteners,
Say that second one again.
seed oils. I'll talk a little bit. I can go into, there's a lot of info here. I've got like 15 pages of stuff, so I'm gonna have to see what I can get through tonight. But any kind of added sugars, you've got your natural, like your sugars and fruits and things. Those are all natural. This is all the added stuff. Processed white flour, and we're gonna get into the breads and things like that and how the differences there were. And then unclean meats, which we'll talk about those two. And finally, artificial colors or the dyes, which I think we're finally starting to maybe address. But those are some things that that you kind of want to stay away with. They were never in the biblical food. They were never in like healthy things. So those are just, I wanted to put those out there. So the first thing I'm going to talk to you about is meat. Now this is on your worksheet here. In Leviticus and Deuteronomy, we've got definitions for clean meats. Okay? They defined in the Bible clean meats as land animals, and they had to be both. They had to chew the cud, and they had to have completely split hooves. So that's in Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14, okay? So when you think about a completely split hooves, like cattle or deer, like those, okay, the hooves. What does chewing the cud mean? Does anybody know that? Or what that is? What that even applies to?
Cow chewing on grass.
That is, yes, that's an example. So a lot of the chewing on the cud was plant eaters. Now,
Go.
the fun thing about plant eaters, a lot of them had multiple stomachs. They had a lot more digestive processing to do, okay? Now, in the biblical times, they did these unclean meats mostly to separate, right? The Jewish people were to be separated from all the pagan nations around them, right? But could it be that there was some cleanly reason why we were told not to eat those foods back then? Could there have been some common sense in these instructions? Turns out there was. Because a lot of these plant eaters with their multiple stomachs and that kind of thing, they had to go through a lot more. They had less parasites. They had less disease. Okay? So these were actually, in fact, cleaner animals, better to eat. That stands true today. Okay? So those are things like the cattle. We can still have chicken and duck and turkey and deer and all of those, and goats. Okay? Those are all okay. Does anybody want to take a stab at what one of the most unclean, what kind of animal out of that group?
Babe.
You got it.
Babe.
Pig.
What was the biggest, one of the biggest unclean animals they talked about a lot, right?
Pig.
Well, let's take a look at pigs for a second. I'm gonna ruin this for you guys. I told you, I'm not gonna be popular. I'm not gonna be popular after tonight's thing, but that's okay. I'm giving you the info.
Well, let me make that plan.
Okay. So, guess what animal has the biggest amount of parasites?
Babe.
Pigs. You got trichinosis, you got pork tapeworm, toxoplasmosis. There's a lot of them, and the pigs are the biggest thing for that. Now, guess what else? Does anybody know what a group 1 carcinogen means?
Wait a minute, one more time.
A group 1 carcinogen.
It's usually red meat.
It causes cancer, and actually, red meat is not.
It's not.
It's a possibly. Bacon and processed meats like your hot dogs, bacon, sausage, they are a group 1, meaning they do. And let's just take a gander about what your risk of colorectal cancer is increased by, and this is with 2 to 3 slices of bacon on a regular. How much you think? 18% increased risk from a general who doesn't eat bacon.
Oh, man.
It's a pretty good, okay? They're also very high for like heart disease, obesity. You've also got bacterial and viruses. So you've got food poisoning, Yersinia, which is a type of food poisoning, salmonella, listeria, all of it. Swine flu, those things. So they're actually, from a health standpoint, one of the worst meats with sausage and bacon you
Does
can
this
consume.
include turkey bacon?
No.
Does not.
It's one of those things that I know it disappoints people, but it's just there is some like practical common sense things to these instructions that were given that still hold true. Now let's look at marine animals. So this is on your sheet there too. According to the yeah, we're gonna get to that in 2 seconds, Trace.
Carp.
What kind of seafood did they say you could eat back in the biblical times? Anybody know?
Tilapia.
Fins and scales. There you go. They
Tilapia.
had so you can eat any of those regular fish. You know, we have some good halibut, salmon's great. You know, all the things with fish and skins you can do. What they tell you in the Bible to stay away from are what?
Shellfish.
Shellfish.
Shellfish. And we said, and Trey said it a second ago, they're bottom feeders. What does that mean exactly?
They're eating everything else's poop.
Poop, yes. So think about if you know, has anybody in here ever had to give a stool sample? Think about taking some of that and putting your eggs in the morning. Jodelle. I'm not ruining eggs. Eggs are good. I'm talking about the shrimp. I'm just giving you an example. Eggs are great. I'm not messing with your eggs. I took
Do you want the rest of Tracy's shrimp?
I took away your bacon, not your eggs. It is true. They're collecting all the things in the organic matter or the crap, basically. Everything else. They're also very high in heavy metals. Like you really have to watch that with the bottom feeders. So again, there are practical reasons for these things. Another thing that the Bible says regarding meat, none of the predators are included. Why might that be? Why wouldn't you want to eat something that's eating
Something else.
something else? Okay, think about it. When you watch all the Discovery Channel things, what do the predators go after?
Dead.
Thin, which means what? Why would they be thin?
Because they haven't eaten.
No, not the predators. Why would they go after what do they go after on Discovery Channel? What do they wait for? If they're going up to a big pack or herd. Huh?
The weakest.
There you go. The sick and the weak. They are consuming that. You guys have heard that you are what you eat, right? Well, I'm saying you are what you eat and it eats, right? So you're taking in these sick and dead animals or weak animals that they're taking in. So that's why, that's a practical reason. I'm not saying that's the only thing. Again, back in those times, they had to separate themselves from the other pagan tribes, okay? So this was an obedience thing. This was a separation. But this was very practical for the health of the Jewish people, okay? So that kind of covers a lot of the meats. Do you guys have questions about that? Any scavengers, predators, that's kind of what was told to avoid there. And I like this quote. There's a nutritionist, David Means. He said, "Could it be that God in his wisdom created certain creatures whose sole purpose is to clean up after the others? Their entire calling may be to act exclusively as the sanitation workers of our ecology. God may simply be telling us that it's better for us to believers not to consume the meat of these trash collectors."
Like vultures or something.
Yes, that's on the list.
I've eaten vultures.
So I just think that's really kind of, when I'm reading this and really delving into this, I'm like, wow, this has been, they didn't know any of that back then. This was in God's divine wisdom. Yes, there was all these reasons, but here we are, he's protecting his people. I believe this, I'll say that. I believe God in his infinite wisdom, there was this divine plan for that. We're going to move on to bread. You know how many times bread is mentioned in the Bible? This is insane to me. In the King James, 492 times. Now, how many times have we talked about in this class how we get tied up over 6 verses that weren't even in the Bible till when the 60s or whenever it was?
Right.
And yet, here we are talking about something that's almost 500 times in the Bible and we never talk about it.
And I love bread.
I think that's interesting. So, and I'll just give you some key things. What did God rain down from heaven when the people were in the desert? Manna, bread, right? What did Jesus say when he was giving his Last Supper about?
I am the bread of life, baby.
I am the bread of life, right? It's physical sustenance. What happened when Jesus was being tempted in the desert? What was the first temptation? What did the devil tempt Jesus with for the first
Turn
temptation?
these stones into bread.
Bread, right? Sustenance. Life. How is biblical bread different from today's bread? I'm going to go over this. There's a lot of things.
No.
Okay, so there's 5 things, and we're going to kind of hit these. There's 5 main things. They use the bread today. It's not germinated and it's not sprouted. So we'll talk about what that means in a second. 2, we have a bunch of hybrid breads running around, which causes a lot more gluten in the bread. 3, we do a lot of chemical manipulation. We spray a lot of pesticides and all kinds of fertilizers and crap, basically. 4, we mill it, and I'll tell you what that is in just a minute. And 5, we enrich it with a bunch of synthetic vitamins and minerals. Okay? So let's talk about the first one. When you germinate bread, or when it's sprouted, that is a natural metabolic process the bread undergoes. Okay? And I don't want to get too complicated because I could do this all day, but there's an enzyme and it breaks it down. It's called phytase, and that helps things be absorbed in the system. So when you're taking that away, you can't absorb as much as those nutrients, basically. Okay, that's the easy way to say it. So you lose those minerals. Okay. Now think about today. What's a kick that everybody's on now? I'm talking about a popular thing. There's a lot of health nuts doing now.
Keto.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm gonna say
Sourdough starters. Have you guys heard anybody talk about that?
Yes.
That's what they're doing, okay?
I'm
And that's
getting
one of the
fat.
healthiest ways to do bread. They're starting it with like the natural flour and they're putting it in water and letting it yes. And like there's a lot of jokes about middle-aged women and sourdough, started sourdough. But basically that increases the nutritional value of the grains and we don't do that anymore, okay? Hybrids. Really since the 60s, we have been mixing all kinds of different grains together. And this process has led to a lot more gluten. And as you guys know, that's a huge buzzword. Everybody, somebody that's got gluten or something, okay? So we used to not have that as much back in they didn't have the gluten sensitivities like you see today, okay? I talked about the chemicals. What was a big thing that everybody was spraying on their grains, their wheat? Roundup. Everybody remember Roundup? Lots of gut health issues with that, lots of diseases. They think it contributes to like IBS and different celiacs and different things like that. But we do so many pesticides and fertilizers and all kinds of things that can really, really cause all kinds of havoc in our system. So that. Now the milling process. So what they do during the milling process is they take out everything. They just leave this middle part. They take out the germ and they take out the bran from around it. The problem with that is this is where you get all your nutrients from the bran and the germ. Now back in biblical days, when they separated it, it was all together. When they were doing all that chafing and whatever they did with the wheat, they kept all this together. We do this to make all of our white flours and it, Wonder Bread is not wonderful. Just remember that. Okay? Wonder Bread is not wonderful. If you get anything from tonight's lesson, there you go. That's what we do today. That's the milling process. That's what it does. Okay? So you're losing all kinds of vitamins, minerals, all the natural things. Next, enrichment. What does it mean when we say that something's been enriched?
It's been bleached.
Well, that can be part of it, but it is there. You have a loss of vitamins and minerals, right? It means it's highly processed. They have to add something back in that they've taken out. Okay, so that's always saying it's been highly processed, and what they add is not very good. What's the difference between enriched and fortified? Fortified means they added vitamins and minerals that were not initially present there. So in enriched, they add back what was there, but with synthetics. Okay. With fortified, they're adding stuff that wasn't there to begin with, okay? There can be, yes, vitamins, minerals are great when they're in their natural form. Not so great sometimes when it's synthetic. I'll give you a huge one. Has anybody in this room heard of the issues with folic acid versus folate? You guys, a couple people are shaking their heads. Okay. So folic acid would be the synthetic form of folate. About 50% they think now have the MTHFR. I have it. It's a genetic thing. You do not break down the folic acid. This can lead to all kinds of problems. If you notice with moms, they're always wanting them to take folic acid. I would never put a pregnant woman on that. Folate or methylated folate is the natural form. If they have that genetic mutation, they cannot break it down. It leads to all kinds of mental health, their inflammation. They can't do DNA and RNA the right way. There's lots of things with that. It's huge in the literature, okay? So that's just one example of a synthetic that they add back, is that folic acid that's not like the natural form at all. So all of these things did not happen in ancient times. Their bread was very full of different nutrients and minerals. They did not have all these like parasite stuff that, or I mean, I'm sorry, all this like spray, the Roundups and pesticides and all that. They did not have any of that. They did not do this milling process. They didn't do any of that stuff. So their bread was very nutritious, very healthy. They didn't have the gluten issues. Some of the ancient breads,
She's gonna tell us, right?
the wheat, the barley, the rye, they had all that back then, okay? So if you're gonna try to do healthy breads, the sourdough starters, which you can get at any health stores now, those organic, natural sourdough starters are really great, okay? Or a sprouted whole grain bread is great. You really, or the sprouted whole grain breads too, those are great. You never wanna eat white bread made from unbleached or enriched fortified flour. Ezekiel bread is another one. You've heard of Ezekiel
Yes.
bread? That's very good too. Milk and butter. That's next. How many times in the Bible do you think? 48 times milk is mentioned, okay? Again, spiritual nourishment, right? Basic sustenance. It's abundance, okay? What did God describe the promised land? How do they describe it?
Honey.
Flowing with milk and honey. There you go. There you go. And, they also talked about do you remember when Abraham, the angel, came to visit and he offered him the milk? Do you remember that? The angel? I thought that was cool. Okay. This is on your sheet. What are 2 things you see on today's milk cartons? If you go into a grocery store, what do you see?
Somebody missing and
Right.
the expression
Did
that.
you just know that right off the top of your head? I love that. All right, pasteurized milk. What does that mean?
Can heat process,
It's been heated. Why do they heat it?
kill the parasites.
There you go. They want to kill everything, which, okay, in today's world, the way we do our cattle and stuff is just crap. I mean, it is what it is. We have them in tight spaces, it's not good. So they want to kill all the things, the salmonella, the E. coli, the listeria, all that stuff, right? But what else the problem with that is when you kill all that, you kill all the good stuff too. Okay? Like, have you guys heard all the controversies with raw milk, which is what they had in biblical times? You guys have heard that?
Yeah.
How many states you think have made it pretty much illegal or heavily restricted to have raw milk? 20 states.
Seriously?
20 states. It's heavily restricted or illegal.
Why?
And it's a huge controversy. Okay, the other thing, the homogenized, Trey said. So pasteurized and homogenized. What does it mean to be homogenized?
Additives have been put into it, so it blends so the cream doesn't separate.
So basically you have these in natural milk like fat globules, so it's clumpier, right? You've heard the term cream rises to the top? That's where that came from. Back in the day, they set your milk on the stool, or whatever, the porch, thank you, the stoop, and the cream raised up in it. You knew where I was going, I love it. So, anyways, that's where that came from. You had all these fat globules and things like that in it, okay? Well, we didn't like that in today's world. We want it to be smooth, right? So what do? We put it through like a high pressure thing to make it a smooth texture, right? And so those fat globules go away. Well, guess what? Again, that helps with the absorption and things like that. So you've really messed with how your body naturally absorbs the milk when you do that. So this raw milk thing. With raw milk, yes, if you get the wrong cows, you have a risk of getting disease and things, which is why some of these states have bans. But guess what? If the cow's doing what it's supposed to be doing, grazing on healthy grass, you're not giving it pesticides. A lot of these cattle today are fed even like candy and corns and different things they were never supposed to be eating. So yes, you have risk for disease and that kind of thing. But if you have a cow living its natural life like it's supposed to, raw milk is great. You've got all kinds of vitamins. You've got all kinds of minerals. It's easily digested. There's less lactase. So those people that have problems with lactase intolerance, which is everywhere now, pretty much, you didn't have as much of that. You didn't have the allergies and things that you see. It didn't upset people's stomachs and that kind of thing like it does today, okay? What happens with raw milk today? I'm sorry, not raw milk. Regular milk if you left it out.
Well,
Guess what happened back in biblical times? What does it do? What does it do when it's left raw?
It goes sour.
It curds, somebody said it. It curds.
Yeah.
It ferments and curds, and guess what they could do with that?
Cottage cheese.
They could do butter, they could do cheese, they could do kefir, stuff like that. But that's left out, it doesn't go bad when it's raw like that. It doesn't do
Is
that.
that fairly recent, Jodelle, because in the 50s and even in the early 60s, you see these where they would just set the milk on your
Yep.
front step,
Yes,
Yep.
milkman would, and go right on.
yes.
So is this fairly recent?
It was Louis Pasteur, and I have to look up what date he was, but he was the one who figured out the pasteurization process, and that's when it was all, it went into, yeah, around 1860s it said Louis Pasteur, that's when. And it emerged more, it became mandatory in the early 20th century, that's what it was. So they discovered it earlier, but they didn't put it as mandatory until later.
Interesting.
And what happened?
I was gonna say, I knew it was Louis. I was like, I know that's when they found it. Okay. So, all right, where was I? Okay, so yeah. So, another thing I want to mention. Not until later, I want to say again, it was the 60s that they discovered it. There's A1 and A2, and it's an enzyme. It's a protein, I'm sorry. It's a beta-casein protein. We used to have only A2 milk, which causes less digestive issues and that kind of thing. Now, most of our cows are all A1. And that protein causes a lot of problems with digestion. A lot of people who can't tolerate milk can go drink A2 and be okay. So that's another thing to pay attention to is that A2, not A1, which on most cows, and they say that, I think I wrote it down when they got infected. They think it was like an actual natural mutation that happened in some of these cows, and I can't remember the year, but that caused that A1
Growth
mutation
hormone.
with the proteins. But so butter is seen in the Bible as well. It's the curds that we were talking about. When the milk, the raw milk was out, it turned into the curds. So that's how butter is mentioned. You see it in Genesis, Judges, Samuel, Job, Proverbs, and Isaiah. And so again, it's in those rich food groups with the milk and honey. You see a lot of those mentioned. So that's where you'd see it biblically, usually as a curd for butter. So, but basically with your butter, I want to mention this before I go on. You want organic, grass-fed, no margarines. Stop with the margarines, okay? Those have got trans fat. They're hydrogenated. They're terrible. Or they use seed oils. And remember, seed oils is on our no-no list. So organic or ghee is fine, okay? But organic, grass-fed butter, that's what you want. Okay.
With that,
What?
organic, grass-fed butter.
It'll say it right on it. But they have them, just you gotta, there was 1 out of 10 that was okay in the grocery store. I'm telling you, the grocery store, a lot of my stuff I order, you can ask them. I just went on a tirade of ordering things all over the world. So anyways, but yeah, we found 1 out of 10 on the grocery store that said it right on the thing. Honey is mentioned 60 or 61 times. I know, I'm taking away their good foods.
We're
Okay.
complaining, but it's not about.
What David, he says in
Sorry.
Psalms 119, how sweet are your words to my taste, sweeter than honey to my mouth, right? Remember that? Judges 14, I believe it starts on verse 8. Look at it. Sometime later, when he went back to marry her, he turned aside to look at the lion's carcass, and in it he saw a swarm of bees and some honey. He scooped out the honey with his hands and ate as he went along. When he rejoined his parents, he gave them some, and they ate it too. But he did not tell them that he had taken the honey from the lion's carcass. Now, who are we talking about? I'll give you another hint. When he goes on to marry,
Samson.
yes,
I got it. I remember.
he had to. And do you remember what happens? Do you guys remember what happens with the honey in the lion's carcass?
Make it-
He
make
had
it
okay.
ready.
He had the people for the wedding, right? And he
Yeah.
said they wanted him to give them tunics or whatever. And he said, if you can figure out my riddle, I'll do that. And he made a riddle about that honey in that lion's carcass. And they ended up like blackmailing him basically, and then he went and killed Philistines to
Delilah
get the
ran him
tunics.
out
Remember?
and told him
Remember that
not to
story?
do it.
Anybody? All right. I like that story. All right. Honey is antioxidant. It's anti-inflammatory. It heals wounds. It helps with burns. It's good for heart. It's good for the dental health. It's good for allergies. There's so many great things about honey. You want it pure, you want it raw, and you want it local. Okay, if you're doing honey. All right.
You know, honey does not spoil.
No, it doesn't. You're right.
What's that?
There's a ton of fruits in the Bible, guys. I brought one.
Pomegranate.
I brought one for you to sample. How many of you guys have ate the pomegranate seed? Now you don't eat the seed, you just chew the little red thing. This is fun.
Good for
You
pumping,
just
good
chew the
for-
little red things and spit out the seeds. So I got the most interesting thing about the pomegranates, besides they symbolize abundance, fertility, God's provision. Okay, they're part of the 7 species talked about in the Promised Land. It's a big fruit throughout the Bible. Okay, now this is what I think is cool. The 613 seeds that they say are in there are supposed to represent the Torah's commands. So I think that's on your sheet. But so in Jewish tradition there's actually, you see how many seeds are in one of those. And they actually say that represents in the Jewish the Torah's laws. So I think that was kind of a really cool thing. They call it, is it mitzvah? Is how they say their commandments in the Torah, but there's 613 of them, just like the seeds. So it was also on like the Jewish, like the garments. They had the pomegranates there too. So very big in biblical times. It's good heart health, reduces inflammation, lowers blood pressure, again, rich on antioxidants, digestive health, immune support, and cancer prevention. A lot of these fruits do that, okay? Red fruits are rich in lycopene. It's good for heart health. That's on your sheet. Draw a line there. So that's like your cherries, your raspberries, your tomatoes, red apples, okay? The orange and yellows have good beta carotene. So strong immune system, healthy vision, right? Carrots, oranges, peaches, mangoes, okay? The green fruits, they've got some chlorophyll. There's other things too. I'm just giving you quick stuff. Chlorophyll, lutein, folate. Strong bones, vision health, lower cholesterol, cell repair, help with clotting. So that's like kiwis, green apples, avocados, honeydew, okay? Blue and purple fruit. Anthocyanins are big in the blue and purple. So these are like your blueberries and blackberries. They help with brain health and memory. They're good for inflammation and anti-cancer effects. The white and brown fruits, L.I.O.N. Again, the heart health, cholesterol control, anti-tumor properties. So yeah, this is your, there's so many fruits. There's like a lot of them mentioned, so I can't go through everything. I did make a little funny poem I have to read. This was my, at midnight. You ready? Red has lycopene, so add strawberries and cherries to your cart. They do have great benefits for your heart. Oranges have beta carotene, so make your stack of carrots high. It will benefit your eyes. Blues and purples have anthocyanins, so bushels of berries will take away all your antioxidant worries. Greens have indoles and sulfanes, so be like Popeye, a spinach nut, and you'll be sure to kick cancer right in the butt. Whites have L.I.O.N, so eat an onion, and you will say with humor, I do not have a tumor. So if fruits and veggies have a rainbow bend and give your health a wind.
Amen.
That's awesome.
Okay, olives. How many times are olives mentioned in the Bible?
Yeah.
53 times. They represent peace. Remember the dove's olive leaf to Noah? Remember that for the end of the, remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Prosperity and divine flavor. Where was Jesus at before he died?
Mount of Olives. But,
Right? David spent a lot of time there too, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So, very important there. Especially like the end of the flood, that was a big one, right? And the Mount of Olives where Jesus did the, all of his prayers and teaching and all the things. So, and Solomon's temple, what did they build it with? Olive wood. There was olive wood part of it too. Yeah. Lot of benefits. If you, somebody had asked me about the Mediterranean diet. Was that you? Yeah. Very healthy diet for a lot of things. And they focus, there's a lot of olive oil. There was in biblical times as well. The things with olive oil, a lot of the grocery store, again, is crap. It should be in a dark glass bottle, okay, to protect it from the light. It should say extra virgin olive oil. I think that's on your sheet. Extra virgin olive oil, and it should be cold pressed. Now, it is hard to find that. I order mine. I just ordered some from Southern Greece. It's not hard, but I'm telling you, if you get a lot of the ones here are contaminated. They put other stuff in them. But if you get the real ones, the cold pressed extra virgin olive oil in a glass bottle protecting it from light, very awesome health benefits. Monounsaturated fats are in them, so they lower LDL cholesterol. They help decrease blood pressure. They're very heart healthy and rich in antioxidants. So a lot of good things, a lot of digestive help. It helps promote good gut bacteria, that kind of stuff. Okay? So very important and significant in the Bible too. All right, I kind of want to start wrapping up. I can talk about figs and stuff too, but where was Nathan sitting under? Remember Nathan when he was called? Remember? Jesus said, I saw you sitting under this
Big
tree.
tree.
Big tree.
Big tree. Okay.
It's also the
What-
tree he cursed.
I was gonna say that, and then what happened? That was my next. We're on the same wavelength sometimes. Okay. My whole point of going through all this tonight is, I think sometimes we forget to look at ourselves as whole people. The food we eat, how we take care of ourselves, it impacts how we show up in life. It affects our energy levels. It affects how we act with other people. Are we frustrated and irritated? It affects how we sleep, which is really important. It takes away from the zest and the God-given energy that we should have when we go into life. If we really say we want to impact this world for Jesus, right? That's our purpose, right? How serious are we? That goes back to what you were saying. How serious are we about that? Because Jesus said it in all Gospels that we should love Him, love God with our total selves. And that's our mind, that's our body, that's our spirit. It's everything. It's how we do everything. And so if we're neglecting a significant part of that, if we're not treating our bodies like a temple, like we're commanded to do, we're missing a big part of that, and we're not being as effective in our ministries as we would be otherwise. So, as I close, I have a question there at the end, and I want to ask you, this is kind of a challenge. I want to ask you, what in those areas, maybe it's your mindset, maybe you're negative all the time. You know, I didn't go into any of that, but I'm just saying, maybe there's something, you know, that you're always like approaching something with criticism first thing, whatever it is. Is it your mindset thing? Is it in your health? Is it in your movement or what you're consuming on a daily basis? You know, is it a spiritual thing? What is it? What is it that comes to mind when you think about your whole person that you're lacking or that you're not fully giving like attention it needs? And I want to see, you know, I want you to think about that, and I want you to take a couple minutes before we close, and I want you to write down, and if anybody wants to share in a minute, I want somebody to share, if you will, about what you want, because it's kind of like a call to action with that. I want to call you to action. I don't want this to be something you hear and be like, okay, there's a lot there. I want you to do something about it. If we truly are loving God and wanting to serve Him and serve other people, then let's be fully present, okay? And this is for me too. I haven't been great with my nutrition ever, really, and I'm really trying to work on that this year. And so that's for me too. That's something I'm really going to work hard on this year and going forward. So what changes are you prepared to make if the hard changes mean you're a better servant to our Father? How far are you willing to go to love God with your whole heart, mind, body, and soul?